Dr. Chris, what are symptoms of rodenticide toxicity?
Well, funny you should ask. There's actually several different types of rodenticide toxicities that we run into now. There's the classic rodenticides, which are basically an anticoagulant that cause animals to bleed out. And usually 3 to 5 days after ingestion, you'll end up with spontaneous bleeding. So bleeding of the gums, bleeding of the eyes, bleeding into the chest, potential bleeding elsewhere. So that's kind of your classic decon. Oftentimes that has been removed from the market and been replaced by 2 other types of rodenticides. One is bromethalin, which is a neurotoxin. That one typically within several days will start to cause neurologic side effects, and sometimes within several hours you can actually see symptoms. Fortunately, it does take a large amount to cause symptoms, given the fact that there is no antidote for that. And the last one is cholecalciferol, which is a vitamin D analog, and that can actually lead to hypercalcemia, which can lead to kidney failure, once again, usually several days after ingestion. The key thing is, if you think your animal got into it, make certain you get them in so that we can get them to vomit and decontaminate the best that we can before they're symptomatic.
Dr. Lauren, what are the symptoms of carprofen toxicity?
Carprofen, yes. So carprofen or Rimadyl is one of the really common brand names, is a great anti-inflammatory drug that we use in our dogs for pain management. But unfortunately, at really high doses, it can have some pretty negative effects. So there are 3 different levels of toxicity for NSAID overdose. The lowest is GI toxicity, so it can cause diarrhea, vomiting, and ulcers in their stomach or intestines. At the next level, they can get renal toxicity, so it can be very harmful for their kidneys. And finally, at high enough doses, it can even be a neurologic toxin. So I would say the biggest takeaway is, if you know your dog has gotten into a large amount, or cat, it's very toxic to cats as well. So if you know your dog or cat has gotten a large amount of anti-inflammatories, such as carprofen or Rimadyl, call us immediately so we can advise you on your next best steps.
Dr. Karen, what are the symptoms of marijuana toxicity?
First off, kids don't do drugs. Second off, marijuana is a common toxicosis that we do see, typically due to dogs out on hikes eating human feces. Marijuana is 70% unexchanged in human feces. Signs we can see is ataxia, stumbling, dripping urine, relaxation, and then a hyperesthetic sudden awakening with light or sound. It can seem pretty profound in these guys. So just a reminder, don't do drugs.
Dr. Lori, what are the symptoms of xylitol toxicity?
So the signs of xylitol toxicity start out as low blood sugar. So you'll see first vomiting, that usually happens within the first half hour of ingestion, and then weakness, kind of staggering. They might have a seizure, fall over, and then ultimately within about 24 to 48 hours, they can develop liver failure. And probably the first thing you'll see with that, it's going to be the same thing, like the vomiting, not wanting to eat, weakness, and then they'll get yellowing of their skin. So if your dog gets into xylitol, we recommend having them seen immediately for treatment.
Dr. Fain, what are symptoms of antifreeze toxicity?
So antifreeze toxicity is specifically to ethylene glycol, an ingredient in antifreeze, brake fluid, winterizing fluids. And the first thing that we'll see in a pet that's ingested it is they'll seem drunk, is the easiest way to describe it. They'll be wobbly, they'll have trouble standing up, they might seem kind of sleepy and dull, even seizures. So central nervous system signs. There is a second phase that's metabolic. You might see vomiting and diarrhea. They might even seem like they've gotten better since the first phase, but ultimately the toxicity progresses to kidney failure. And in kidney failure, dogs and cats will drink a lot of water, and they'll also urinate way more than normal. So that's sort of the picture, and signs can come on between half an hour and about 3 hours after exposure. Unfortunately, it has a very high mortality rate without treatment. So we do recommend that if you are concerned that your pet was exposed, you would bring them in right away. Also important to keep pets out of the garage, places that you store chemicals. If they drink it, it's usually from a spill on the ground or an open container. And there are pet safe products. So they do make antifreeze and other products now that have propylene glycol instead of ethylene glycol. So you could look for that on the label. But most important thing, if you're worried about exposure, bring them right into the vet.